Okay, so back to the story. It's 2013 at this point, and I'm in Kauai. And as I said, though, I was at the time I was a big time leftist and kind of anti-white, and I do think that I was satanic because I studied Hindu mythology. This is why I studied recently more, so I didn't know this at the time. But in the Hindu mythology, Shukracharya is Venus. He's Satan. He's the morning star, and he wants the Dravidians to defeat the darker skinned Dravidians to defeat the lighter skinned Aryans. And and according to scholars, the Dravidians are the demons in the Hindu mythology, and the Aryans are the demigods, and Satan's on the side of the demons and the darker races. And that's the way I was. I wanted the darker races to defeat the lighter races. And the way that Satan does that in Hindu mythology is he wants to destroy religion because he sees religion as for the Aryans. The Brahmins are the Aryans, and the lighter skinned, the Brahmin priests. And he wants to destroy the whole religious system because he thinks it's just bogus. And that's the way that I saw it. And I wanted to undermine religion and just say it's just Darwinism. Like I was like Nietzsche. Like I wanted to be like, yeah, basically religious people, they're really just the weaker people, or like the Brahmins, and they get power by saying that you will go to heaven by not having sex, and really it's just a way to control the population, and it's a way for the priestly class, the Brahmins, the Aryans, to get power and to maintain power and maintain the status quo and the social order. And it's all about power. And same thing with even like the Jews. It was just a way for the Kohanim to maintain priestly power so they could keep power in their genetic lines. And that's the way I wanted to see reality. And I wanted to see religion as bogus. But like I said, I think I was satanic because I know that underlying my motivation to destroy religion was I saw it as white supremacist, and I saw it as maintaining the status quo, and I was a communist Marxist. But now I realize that was like Satan in the Hindu mythology. He is a communist Marxist, and he wanted to destroy the Aryans. He wanted to destroy the Brahmin caste. He wanted to, the darker races to defeat the lighter races. And that's the way that I was. And I think it's because I saw myself as Jewish, and I saw myself more as a person of color, and I saw, and I wanted to defeat the white people, the Aryans. So I was basically a communist Marxist and a big time leftist. So, but back to the way that I saw things. So like the way that I tried to, when I was on INTP Central in 2013, and the way I was trying to defeat religion was, for instance, I would say like, yeah, David in the the Jewish scriptures, he pretends to be against the Jews and for the Philistines. And the Philistines, I saw them as Indo-European, right? And he's for the Philistines, but really he kills the Philistines and he saves the Jews. Every night he would be with the Philistine king, and he'd be like, yeah, and the Philistine king's like, yeah, we love David. He's awesome. But every night David would go out and kill Philistines. And the way I saw it was that's the same thing that Jesus did. That's the same thing Christianity did. Jesus pretended to be against the Jews, but really he wasn't. He's like, salvation's for the Jews, and he only went to the Jews. And yeah, he was like, showed them tough love, and like, you guys are synagogue of Satan. But then he's like, but the stone that the builder rejects will become the capstone. And I'm like, yeah, really he was just trying to save the Jews by converting their enemy to a religion that would destroy their empire. And to a religion that would protect the Jews. And that's what Christianity did. And that's even what Islam did, I thought. And, because it says, give the Jews Israel, be good to the Jews and all that stuff. And I was like, this is just obviously a trick. And just like ways that I tried, and I was like, the same thing that David did. He pretended to be against the Jews, but really he saved the Jews. And I was like, deception, deception's an important part of animal nature. Animals use deception in order to defeat their prey, to defeat their enemies, to kill, other species and stuff. You see that throughout the animal kingdom. I'm like, it's the same thing with the humans, and it's what Christianity was. It was just a deception. It was deception by the Jews. And why did I want to do that though? I think I was satanic. I wanted, I didn't think that Jesus really was someone. If you believe in Jesus, you're going to go to heaven. I was like, no, that's just all bogus. It was, they wanted to make it appealing to believe in Jesus so that they could make the Romans adopt the religion to defeat them. That's the way I wanted to see it. And like I said, and I think I had an agenda, and it was based around my ego. I saw myself as Jewish, and I wanted to subvert the way that the people, normally see it. Usually the white people be like, oh, Jews are bad, they're the bad ones. But I wanted to be like, no, they're the good ones. And, I always thought that religion was white supremacist and look down upon the people of color who are more sinful, more sexual, more, violent criminals and stuff, right? But I wanted to be like, no, it's actually the opposite. I was a communist Marxist, and I wanted to believe that the Bible was communist Marxist. And because I basically wanted to just completely uproot religion, and especially Christianity, but religion in general, because I thought all religion was white supremacist. So just like some more examples of how I did that was, I was pointing out, like, Elijah, he heals enemy people, right? He heals like a woman, right? But that woman ends up later helping him kill the Aramean king. Like, she tells the king something, and that ends up leading to his death, right? It ends up leading him being killed. And I was like, yeah, Jesus also heals, like, the Canaanite woman. He heals these people, but it's helping the enemy so that your enemy will help you defeat, so they will double cross. Like when the Israelites helped Rahab, the prostitute, right? I'm like, yeah, that would lead to a communist revolution. Prostitutes are the proletariat, the lower class. And the Israelites helped Rahab, the prostitute, and then she helped to destroy Jericho. And same thing with Jesus helping the Canaanite woman, so that she will help destroy the Jewish enemy and through communist revolutions. And I saw Christianity as kind of a communist revolution. And I wanted to see Christianity as communist and uphold that and extol that idea, because I was like, yes, because I knew that the white people or the white supremacists were nationalists and against communism, but I wanted to be for communism, because I was like, yeah, share your wealth, because it's like take from the rich, give to the poor, take from the white people, give to the people of color, right? And Jesus, I wanted to, it was my ego. I wanted to see Jesus as a communist and someone who would want to open borders and want to do that, because I really had an ego agenda to defeat the white people, and I was for the people of color. And I think that that's common. Like, you see that a lot with, like, for instance, like the Latin American socialist gospel, where they're like, yeah, Jesus was for the poor, and he's for, opening borders and stuff, because they want to defeat the white people. And, that helps their, people adopt beliefs that are best for their genes, for their group, right? That's the way I wanted to see things. But I was a communist at the time, and I wasn't even really aware so much. It was because I was Jewish, or saw myself as Jewish, and because I wanted to defeat the Aryans, right? And I wanted a race mix. So, but anyways, I was like, yeah, like Peter in the Bible, Peter is taken out of prison by a miracle, but I was like, no, it wasn't really a miracle. He was converting the centurions of the enemy, and then they got him out of prison, and they just described it as a miracle in the Bible. And, like Herod, he ends up being killed. Herod was, I would say he wasn't really a Jew. He was a convert, and he probably didn't even convert, right? And they say that he was just killed by God, but I was like, no, he was probably killed by the people who converted to Christianity. So I wanted to take out all the religious aspect of it, the spiritual aspect, and just be like, yes, it's all just Darwinism, and Jesus converting his enemies was just, Marxist revolutions, and him helping his enemies so that they would destroy the Roman Empire. They would destroy the enemy of the Jews to save the Jews. And that's really what the Christianity was about. It was just a Darwinian trick. It was just a trick to save the Jews, because I wanted to just like completely erode Christianity and erode religion in general, and just say it's all just Darwinism. It's all, like Nietzsche said, it's all just plays of power. It's just power dynamics and power manipulations and deceptions, right? I was a Marxist. I was a communist. That's the way I wanted to see this stuff, and I thought it was white supremacy. I thought religion tended to be white supremacy. At least, but, now I recognize, yes, it is true that some white people would be against communism and against that stuff, because that's what's best for them, right? They don't want to share all their wealth and stuff. And it makes sense. People adopt beliefs that are best for them, right? So, but that's the way I wanted to see things, but I was a communist because I was anti-white, and I think I was satanic. And the very reason why I say that is because, like I said, in Hindu mythology, Satan is for the people of color and against the Aryans, and he's a communist and against religion, and he thinks religion is all deception, and he's against Vishnu, and he's for Shiva. He's for destruction, and I was for destruction. I was a Marxist. I was for destruction, and that's what I was at this moment. And again, like I said, I was confused. I thought my grandpa was a white supremacist, and I was being mistreated, I felt, and I was just confused at this point. But as I mentioned, like, the problem was I was posting this stuff online, and my mom was was deleting all the posts, or she was hiding it all, right? But then I realized this and I unhid all this stuff. And then all this, I was asking people for basketball videos of when I was younger. And then all the people were like, all of a sudden, like, no, actually, we don't have them. At first they had them and now they don't have them. And everything was deteriorating because I wanted basketball videos so bad when I was younger. And like I said, I'm not going to go into details because I know I was so good because I was unconscious. But I did things that only like Michael Jordan and Kobe did, right? And in order to repeat it, you have to see exactly what you did. Like, oh, I dribbled from my right hand to my left, and then I did this thing, and then my leg dragged, and nobody does that move or that skip, and I did that skip, but nobody does that. Or because I put my hand this way, I put my hand this way, and you can only see this when you're looking at the videos, and especially like the way that I shot. I was considered one of the best shooters in the country, and the only way that, and then the shooter messed up my shot, and the only way you can really get your shot back is seeing what you exactly did. Oh, I used to step like this and then step like that into the shots. And then when I duplicate it, oh, now I'm shooting good again. But at that time, like I said, my grandpa's going to be like, well, you were shooting bad. When I was in Kauai, yes. I was still shooting bad because I didn't have the videos and I wasn't studying them a lot. Only in 2019, when I really started to figure this stuff out and started like duplicating what I saw in the videos exactly. And you see, I didn't even realize how important it is to duplicate exactly. Like I was sort of duplicating, but still I was just trying to do my own thing. But then you duplicate exactly and then you start fixing your stuff and you see exactly what you were doing. So it's so essential to have the videos, and I wanted basketball videos at this time. And a part of the reason, like I said, why I was posting this stuff was I wanted to get people to think like, whoa, this guy's really smart. My teammates, whoa, he's really smart. He's really powerful. Let's get him the videos. But then it all backfired. And like I said, too, if my family would have just been talking to me, if I would have had some support, if I would have had some love, any of this stuff, and I wasn't forced on Kauai and I wasn't being mistreated, all this stuff wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have gone so crazy. But, it's like, and still to this point, I want to see my dad and I want to show him what I'm talking about the basketball. Because I'm not going to show you guys because I don't want to make people think. I'm not going to show you guys all the stuff I know about the basketball and what I figured out. And what hurts me a lot is I know that my grandpa won't believe me because he saw me when I was still playing bad. When I hadn't figured this stuff out. I only figured this stuff out in 2019 playing with Compton College. A lot of stuff, and I can go into details about what I figured out, but I don't want to make people think because I know I was so good because I didn't think. So anyways, all I'm saying is in Kauai at this point, things are all deteriorating, things are going crazy, things are going out of control. So I wanted to get videos of when I was younger, so now I'm asking the people for videos. Now, but as I said, at this time, I'm still a communist, and I'm making rap videos trying to like threaten to people. Like I know that I don't like liars and stuff. I feel like my friends lied to me saying they didn't have the videos because they said they had them, and then I posted, and then I unhid all my communist stuff, and then all of a sudden they said they didn't have them. And so now I'm just like losing my mind on Kauai because I really want these videos. For years, all I wanted was these basketball videos, and also I wanted them so I could show people how good I was, And it's just like everything is falling apart. And my mom and dad are not talking to me. And they're saying, oh, you're a schizophrenic loser. My grandpa is not helping me. I want to get the quadrant stuff out. People aren't helping me. And it's just like, I'm overwhelmed. And it's like, and like I said, it didn't have to be this way. My mom and dad could have helped me out with the quadrant model. My mom and dad could have been supportive. My grandpa could have been, but he didn't believe the quadrant model. And they weren't supportive. And they were treating me badly, right? So I'm stuck on Kauai. I don't want to be on Kauai. And my grandpa's like, well, you didn't have to be. You could have gone back to Los Angeles and tried to go, and got a job and tried to go to college. But no, I wanted support. I wanted to talk to my mom and dad. And everything was just screwed up at this point. So then this is when I started to change from being like a communist to going the right-wing route. So I think that what was going on was I was like, okay, well, my friends said they didn't have my videos, and I was too afraid to ask more people for videos. And I also noticed a lot of my friends were kind of religious. A lot of them were Christians and stuff. So I was like, well, maybe I should start, maybe it was because I was communist. Maybe it's because I was anti-religious and anti-white, but I was thinking, my black friends who are religious, I was like, they're stupid because I'm like, dude, religion is a tool of white supremacy, right? That's the way that I saw it. But at the same time, so now I'm like, well, maybe if I become religious, they'll give me the basketball videos. And also at the same time, I remember I started feeling bad for white people. And also I started noticing that white people had more swag flow and stuff. And I'm not going to get into details about that. But I started feeling bad for white people. And I started having like I had some white girlfriends on Kauai, and I started noticing that the white girls like me better. And I started thinking, well, it's probably because I'm white, or I look white. I look like their dads. And that's the way I saw things, because saw things through the Darwinian perspective. So I'm like, yeah, people like their own tribe because that's what's best for their genes. And they like guys who look like their own tribe. And I look kind of white. So the white girls like me better, and the girls of color don't like me as much. And I started thinking like, well, if I have kids with these white girls, they're going to be white. But like my whole life, I didn't like white people. And I always wanted to, have a kid with either a Jewish woman or a person of color, because I was, anti-white. But then I'm thinking like, well, what if I do have a white kid and I'm anti-white? That would be stupid. So I'm starting to move away from being anti-white leftist, and I'm starting to move right-wing. And like I said, at that time when I was a leftist, I was against religion, and I didn't want to believe in the afterlife. Like, I was like the Jay Witnesses who think that the Bible doesn't teach that there's an afterlife. And I just wanted to be like, it's just metaphorical. And the stories of Gehenna are just stories about, places where they used to sacrifice children, and there is no hell, and there is no, and there is no heaven. And I didn't want to believe in the afterlife type of stuff. But then I start questioning like, well, maybe there is an afterlife. And I start becoming more like pro-white people as well. And I started to become more religious, and I started going to Seventh-day Adventist churches and Messianic churches, and they're saying like, that you should follow these laws, and if not, you will go to hell, and all this stuff. And I start questioning like, well, maybe the Orthodox Jews are right. What if they're right, and if by me not following the Sabbath, I might go to hell. And like I said, I do think I started moving to be more pro-white and more religious. So I went from being anti-white, anti-religious, like satanic, to pro-white, pro-religious. So I think I went from being like a Shiva worshiper, destruction, communism, to a Vishnu worshiper, like nationalism, preservation, and conservation. And I started to become conservative. So I moved away from being a leftist to being right-wing. And this all happened while I was on Kauai at this time. And I started thinking like, damn, maybe everything I'm saying is wrong. And remember, I wanted race mixing, and I was talking on INTP Central about how, the only way to solve problems, the wars and all the problems in the world is through race mixing. Because I was like, the only reason why there's different religious groups is because there's different ethnic groups, and different ethnic groups adopt different beliefs in order to justify division and justify the maintenance of their tribal unities to maintain their genes. So I was like, the only thing that can mitigate this is if everybody mixes. And the way you can do this is create a forecast society based around temperament and race mix people, and that will get rid of the wars and the problems in the world. But now I'm starting to think like, maybe the Orthodox Jews are right, and maybe race mixing isn't the answer. And I'm starting to think like, before I wanted the race mixing because I was a communist, and I was like, everything is the white man's fault. And the reason why there's killing and theft, thievery and stuff is because of white supremacy and stratification, and communism, Marxism would be the answer to all this. But now I'm starting to think like, I started to wonder like, maybe it is true that people of color are more sinful and stuff. And I'm seeing my friends on Kauai and maybe they do have lower IQs and they are more sinful. And maybe my race mixing ideas are not beneficial. And maybe it will just create a hellish world. And it won't solve all the problems, but maybe if you race mix everybody, it will create a hellish world. And maybe it is good to have, white people and black people and not try to mix everybody. So I started going against my race mixing ideas, and I started to wonder, well, maybe nationalism is the best way to go. And I was studying what the Orthodox Jews were talking about, and they were saying kind of that stuff. They were like, they were basically describing how communism is negative, and they would talk about Korah's rebellion, and they're saying Korah's rebellion was a communist rebellion against Moses because they were trying to say everybody's equal, but they're like, no, not everybody's equal, and it is good to have diversity. And they were saying like, but I was a communist before, and I thought that diversity was negative, but now I'm like, maybe these Orthodox Jews and maybe the nationalists and maybe the white supremacists are right, and it is beneficial, and trying to force people to race mix is not good. And my grandpa would later tell me that, like, yeah, trying to force things is not the flow. But so at this point, I started to move away from being a communist to being more nationalistic, and from being anti-white to being kind of, pro-white, even white supremacist. And I was also looking at videos at the time of like, the rap videos and the gangster stuff, and like the rap videos with all the sexual stuff, and not just rap videos, but just all the black stuff. And I started studying the white supremacy ideas and seeing like, okay, I started to believe in the Illuminati a little bit. Like the Illuminati is a race mixing program, because I was like watching Miley Cyrus, who's the white girl, and then she'd have these videos with all these black guys, and she would be doing drugs, and it's like the degradation of society, and like communism, Marxism, and like basically being against morality, against religion. And I started to think like, dude, maybe this is wrong, and maybe it is satanic. And that was when on Kauai I moved away from being a communist, and I started moving to be a communist left-winger to a right-winger conservative. And that all happened on Kauai. And I'll get more into this.